So, you gotta take all this with a grain of salt, because obviously I'm not a walking dictionary and I don't understand everything going on. But, I do have a good, reasonable understanding. We'll start with X. Jose Onfroy. It feels weird just to say that name, because Jose is so commonly mixed into with memes now that saying it, I feel like I'm referencing a dead meme or something. No pun intended there. The thing is that I've been thinking about it, mostly because as of recent, December 11th, 2019, another young rapper named Juice Wrld has passed. He died of a seizure, but it's mostly because of the drugs he took. It's always when these things happen, that I start thinking about it, and how this makes me feel to see it happen. Because loss is something I take very seriously, and it affects me, especially when somebody, like an artist, happens to die, like X. He personally, for me, helped me a lot with this music, because it was nice to have something to listen to that I could really compare to how I was feeling. Because, I used to be very depressed, so it helped a lot in that regard. It's like he was going along with his own struggles and understanding them for himself, as I was. And it was really nice to have that. To, have somebody there for me like that. And, it helped me cope with things and think about them. So, when he died, I was, obviously very sad. And, that's usually when it happens. Once they die, there's the grieving. And then there's what happens afterwards on the internet. So, let's go into his fans to start. When somebody this influential dies, it is spread everywhere. You hear it in the news, you hear it all over the place. And that's exactly what happened with him. And really, that's when, the bad stories about him start coming out. And I'm not going to defend him. Some of the things he did were pretty messed up, but I don't think he was a bad person. I really think he struggled a lot with mental health, as a lot of people do, which isn't an excuse, but sometimes that's just what happens. And, at least he was one of the few people who was on the come up with all of his fame and his money that he was getting, and was actually trying to improve himself. Normally you get famous and it starts going down, but he started to improve himself, right? But the fans, when he died, I understand it to an extent, that they just were grieving, but the whole idea, the idea of treating him like he's some god, like Jaws in heaven, he's watching over us, like people really did, frame him like he was some kind of, higher being than us, the legend king, which I understand grieving for somebody and being appreciative of them, but the extent it went on to it just didn't seem fair to him. That's not what he would have wanted, And then there's the other half of it where people who do genuinely just care about him, post about it. They give out their regards and say goodbye. And, since people do that, it happens to show up everywhere and people get really upset with that. So then you get the crowd of people who are just talking down on this man who truly didn't deserve any of it and start just battering him for existing, for doing what he did. They start battering him because they're tired of seeing about it, or because they just want to be funny and edgy. Those are the kids who still say the N-word and then laugh because that's funny, kind of deal. And it's sad to see, I don't think human life should be treated that way. It's a very important thing that should be cherished. So to see it happen like this, especially to somebody I care about, it hurts. It hurts to see it. And with Juice Wrld passing recently, I listened to some of his music, but I wasn't a fan. I'm not gonna pretend like I was. I listened to some of his songs, the catchy ones, really. I did like a song especially called Legends, and it's sad to see somebody pass, especially somebody who you really just, way too young, didn't deserve it. But it's happening again with the people getting sick of it, or the people, not so much like X, with treating him like a godly status, which I appreciate. But it's just shitty, especially for all the people who really love this guy, because he was very adored. He was doing well for himself, and people really loved him. And you know what? I mean, if people loved him like that, then it's important to me. I don't think he was a bad guy. I don't particularly listen to his music, but, I appreciate him for what he did. So it's still sad to see him go. And, for X specifically, it was very sad for me. Because I looked up to him a lot. And I didn't realize till just today how I get this feeling of embarrassment for saying that, almost. Which is stupid. I shouldn't be embarrassed to say that, but it's where the fan base is right now that how people view him, it just makes me not want to say it, and I don't like that. Not at all. Like, if I were to go in and tell people, yeah, I listen to X, they'll probably view me differently in, like, even a darker manner. Which I don't like at all. There's, no. His songs, we can go there, are very, what's the word? Weird. Diverse. There's not much else like it. When you hear him at first, his popular songs like Look At Me, right? You listen to it and you're like, okay, well, this is just really loud, maybe not think it's good if you're not into that kind of thing. But X is one of the only rappers, really, of this new generation of rap that I found to be very much so different when it comes to his emotions and how he's writing the songs. Anybody can write a song where you're just yelling about pussy, money, weed, shit like that. But it's the context that matters. I really think throughout his journey, X, he was writing music that expressed his mind and how he's doing, how he is. He wasn't writing this to get hits. He wasn't writing this because that's what he was doing. These are just the things he felt, because if you notice when you listen to his music, it's not always the same. He put out a song like Look At Me. That's how people started to know him. And then he puts out an album like 17. You understand? That change into that album was beautiful. I did not care less for X. He's the guy who made Look At Me from the memes. That's all I knew him by. And then, on a whim, I heard 17, and that really changed my insight for him. He wrote this beautiful album expressing his depression and the hatred he doesn't know how to control. And it was beautiful. Really, there's some great songs in there that I still go back to. And then he makes another album, like the question mark symbol. That's a little more diverse. There is some songs expressing his depression. There's a lot more expressing his, in some words, mental insanity. His bad mental health. And how he's feeling angry, and these emotions inside of him are just really, built up. A lot more aggressive songs in that album, but you can still tell that they were written to be expressing himself. And I think that's beautiful. I think you should, if you're going to write songs that express who you are, and you're scared that other people are not going to like it, just go for it. I think expressing yourself is a very healthy thing to do and a very respectable thing to do, because that's very hard to do as well. and he had a few other albums. The Question Mark album was the last one he put out before he died, which is a shame. But what we didn't know is that he was making so much music as is. I believe his mother and probably his management team, I'm not sure who, went through all of his, his stuff and what he was making. He had 2 albums worth of music. I mean, surely it wasn't finished, but it was there. They managed to put out 2 albums worth of music. And the latest one they put out recently, here, give me a moment. I would like to find what it's called, because it really was beautiful. Even though you can tell it's not finished and they tried their best. It's called Bad Vibes Forever. They tried their best to keep it, genuine. And it does. And his vocals are in it. And it's beautiful to see how he changes, the way the music changes to express how he's feeling. You get really hard bass, like in Floor 555, with really hard bass and yelling, and you can really understand the anger that he's feeling for things in his life. And then you get songs like Triumph, with beautiful guitar and understanding of his life and the good feelings that he can get for himself. And then you get songs, I believe, what is it called? Wanna Grow Old. Wanna Grow Old from the newest album really does set this point down of this is how he feels. Starts off with some nice guitar, and that's the only instrument. It's him playing a guitar, and he's singing about how he feels his life and that he doesn't want it to end. And if you listen to his music, that's all he talks about, is how much pain he's in and that he wants it to be over. But finally, he doesn't want it to be over. He wants to keep going because he knows he can be better and that he wants to be better. That he's gonna get over this. And that song is beautiful. A lot of the songs on this album are just heart-wrenching to hear him say, especially knowing that that was the end of his life. The end of his life is when his life was just beginning. And, that's really sad to know. But because of this, because of even before these new albums and all that, I loved him ever since I heard 17. I understood what he was doing, and he starts off most of his albums with an introduction about the album, and it's beautiful. And I feel embarrassed for being embarrassed to say that I really, really like X. And, I'm still going to be listening to this album for a long time. And I really appreciate him for what he did. So, yeah, there's my take on it. Have a good night.